Welcome to the Business Growth Spotlight, where we shine the light and talk with business leaders from all over the world who are here sharing their wisdoms and insights so we can all grow together. I'm your host, Heidi Schalk, co-founder of HLH Growth Solutions, where we help businesses grow revenue through outside-the-box visibility strategies. And if you're new to the podcast, welcome. We're really excited to have you here. I got a special treat for you. We're going to have some fun today. This man that I have with me today is awesome. I have had some little background conversations before today, so I've been really excited to have this conversation. So without further ado, welcome Clay Malloy to the podcast with DocsInk.
Well, hello, Heidi. How are you? That's a lot of pressure, by the way, to start out with.
No pressure at all.
I hope I don't disappoint.
Yeah, no, you're not. We're going to have some fun. So Clay, can you start us off by telling us a little bit about yourself, DocsInk, and your role within the company?
Absolutely. So, as you mentioned, my name is Clay Malloy. I'm the president of DocsInk, and I took over about a year ago now of the company. It's an 11-year-old company. We started out in the charge capture space, so where physicians would provide services in different practices. They would use our technology to document their charges. And then from there, it grew to, we have a secure messaging platform, a HIPAA compliant. We also have telemedicine, and we do RPM, remote patient monitoring, and chronic care management, disease management services as well.
Awesome. So how did you get started? You said you took over the company. It's an 11-year company, so you haven't been with them the whole time. So how did you get into this space in the healthcare space? Because I see your background's all sports related. So
absolutely. So I often tell people I'm a sports marketing guy that took a right turn and ended up in the healthcare space. It's an unfortunate but fortunate story how all that happened. I was bumping along and enjoying myself in the sports marketing space, where I spent 13 years. So I spent time selling corporate market sponsorships, advertising, TV, radio, things like that for the PGA Tour, the NBA, college sports programs like the Florida Gators and
the Gators.
The Gators, that's right. The University of Miami. Even spent some time in the professional lacrosse space. I played lacrosse in college. And as I was in this environment, something had happened. My mother had been diagnosed for the second time with cancer. And we learned quickly from the doctor that her condition was declining much faster than we anticipated. So during the second part of her cancer, where she was taking chemo, we noticed that she wasn't feeling as bad and she wasn't losing her hair, and which was a shame because she was super excited, because the first time she lost her hair, and she had all these wigs that she had named and she would wear them on specific days. She's so funny. And but this time none of that was happening. We're like, wow, well, maybe you just got used to the chemo and your body was better in handling it. Well, turns out that wasn't the case. And unfortunately for her and for a number of people in the Kansas City area at the time, there was a pharmacist who was diluting her chemotherapy and others and then selling it on what they call the gray market. So her life, unfortunately for us, was cut very short. I think she was 51 when she passed away. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, I appreciate that. And, I never saw myself in the healthcare space. My first wife was actually a nurse, so I knew very well that I never wanted to be in the healthcare space. The only time I wanted to go into a hospital or in, the doctors if something was really wrong. But after, beside that, I was, avoided at all costs. And but all of a sudden, I just started getting these thoughts of, maybe there's a way that we could do this better. And I was naive enough at the time to think that I could actually make real change in the healthcare space, and started a company, provided private duty nursing for people. And then that kind of morphed into a technology-based company where we created a virtual heart valve clinic. And then I ended up in the telehealth space, and telehealth evolved now into remote patient monitoring. And here I am today. But I'll say this, in the lead up to COVID, telemedicine was just a fun to have. It wasn't a necessity for most people. But once COVID hit, it just like everyone had to have it. Care moved away from the hospital, and remote patient monitoring really started to pick up then especially for cancer patients, because they still had to monitor those patients and take care of them. There was a lot of, I don't want to say this in a bad way, but nefarious actors who kind of jumped into the space because there was a lot of opportunity in the remote patient monitoring environment to where you could start a company and make some pretty decent money. There's a lot of talk about making billions of dollars from Medicare reimbursement, which is crazy to me because it's not a huge reimbursement program. But people were sold that bill of goods, and it kind of tarnished the RPM name, if you will, for a number of years post-COVID. And since then, there's been a lot of consolidation around the space. So when I came out of telemedicine and went to remote patient monitoring, I was unfortunately part of one of those companies who just, I guess for a lack of a better term, maybe didn't have the foresight or the vision that was needed to really be successful in the space, and they actually closed their doors. So when this opportunity came about, my wife looked at me and said, "You are absolutely crazy. Why would you jump back into the fire? You got let go. The whole company got let go. This is crazy." And she was right about me being crazy. So I went and met with the owner. We had a couple of
Right and crazy, two great combinations, right?
Yes, exactly. So we had a really good conversation around what I thought was going to be successful in remote patient monitoring. Again, a sports guy, took, wrong turn and ended up here. But I had a vision for it and the things that I thought that would actually change some things in the market that weren't already being done, because at the time it felt like everyone was doing what everyone else was doing. So it was kind of like a Me Too kind of space. And ended up being a race, and it's turned out to be a race to the bottom for just the Medicare dollars. And well, that didn't make any sense to me. So I pitched my plan to him. Maybe he's crazy enough to believe in it, and here we are. So it's been kind of an exciting ride, that's for sure. This past year has been wild.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing your journey, because it allows us to learn more about you and kind of get a better perspective and an inner perspective, or I don't know what the word is, of like your journey and your why behind it. So, and it's really nice and sweet, and I know great way for you to honor your mom and keep her with you as you're moving through this journey. And it's because of her that you're here, is from what I'm hearing. So that's fantastic. So yeah, like I said, thank goodness for your craziness and your naivete that you dove in. And like I said, it's a great way to honor your mom and keep her spirit alive and fight for what's right in the industry, right?
I'm hoping to, yeah.
So can you tell us, Clay, you mentioned RPM twice. So can you go deeper into what is it? What does it mean?
Sure. So RPM is short for remote patient monitoring. And as I mentioned, during COVID, it was a way for physicians to manage patients with chronic conditions and cancer outside of the hospital walls. So prior to COVID, there was a lot of talk around overcrowded bed space. The ED is always or the emergency room is always crowded. You can't get in to see your doctor. And this was a way to kind of push care back out into the marketplace. And for people with chronic conditions like heart failure, COPD, diabetes, things like that, it was a way for your provider to manage you remotely with a device. So it could be a blood pressure cuff, it could be a glucometer, it could be a number of things. It allowed patients to kind of live their life, give them an opportunity to take control of their condition better from at home, and limit the number of times they had to come into the hospital to take these readings so the doctor could do, their checkups. So it provides a lot of benefit to patients in that way, that there's a lot of patient satisfaction around it, because it could be anybody, but if you're a growing family and your kids are in school and you got to go get your son or daughter and take him or her to the doctor's office multiple times because you need doing checkups, or even yourself, you have to leave work. That can be difficult. And some people don't have that opportunity, or people who live in rural locations where it's just really far. It's like a 30-minute drive to a doctor's office, or people with social determinants of health who might not have access to a car. And it would be very difficult for them to come in on a repeated basis to their doctor's office just to take their blood pressure, right? So it provides the satisfaction of the patient to be able to do this in their home. And then what we do, we're kind of the middleware, if you will, where the clinicians can then use our platform to see what these measurements are, how the patients are trending, and then make decisions based on those trends. So it provides a clinician an opportunity to see if, well, it looks like this person's trending down, that their health is getting worse. Maybe we should call that patient. We should spin up a telemedicine consult, or maybe we need to have them come in. But what they're trying to do is have this happen way before they end up in the emergency room, because that's, there's been a lot of talk about readmissions and then the penalties that the hospitals are receiving for those readmissions. So it's a way for them to keep those readmissions down.
So you had mentioned too, Clay, that, you've been here. How many years have you been with DocsInk now?
Just one. Yeah.
One. Okay. And it's been a crazy year. You told us that, so we'll get into that. But why DocsInk? What brought you here? What made you choose DocsInk?
So, and if I'm being completely honest, I'm not sure if I wanted to get back into healthcare after my last experience, but the gentleman that I spoke to who recruited me had a really good story about ownership here. And it was really the two meetings that I have with our owner, understanding that they're committed to this. And I pushed hard on that, because the last company I was with said they were committed as well, but that they wanted this thing to be successful, that they've gone this long, and they know that with a couple of tweaks here and there and some real leadership and vision, that we could be somewhere down the road, that this thing would be actually a big success. Because like I mentioned earlier, it does provide some important benefits to patients and to the providers, the hospital systems that employ these providers. So there is a need. It's just that, as I mentioned earlier, the business kind of got a bad rap for a while because some people got into it for maybe the wrong reasons. And there were some health systems that I would go into to sell into them, to talk to them. And they're like, listen, this will be the third time we've tried this. The last two failed miserably. You better have your stuff together. You're like, so to answer your question, not only did they want this thing to be successful, but they believed enough in me to give me enough rope to implement the plan that I had to make this business, I think, to be successful.
That's awesome. So, I've spoken with some, we're just breaking into the health space on this podcast, full transparency. We're starting to talk to more, because we want to talk to people in different spaces, because again, this podcast is business growth. So it's not limited to one. It's pretty agnostic when we're trying to help people grow. And I've heard whole person health said. So what does that mean to you? What's whole person health?
So it's interesting. As I mentioned, the ownership gave me kind of free rein to do some things. So I was able to handpick who I thought were some of the best people in the space. And they're consultants for me, or they work directly with me. And there was a few people that I just had to have right away. And I was fortunate to bring them in. But we all had a consensus that the direction that remote patient monitoring was going was more around singular focus in care. So companies were starting to really specialize in heart failure or diabetes, just one singular use case. And that's fine, but I think we just took a different vision of it and saying, well, what about the entire person? There's all these different factors, cues that influence a patient and their life on a daily basis. And we need to start looking at those things and better managing them, or helping them better manage those things for a better outcome. There's been a lot of talk about population health, and that's great. But what about the person? We're more focused on the person's health and more of a prescriptive care plan specific to that individual. Because as we learned during COVID, we're all not the same person. We just react to things differently. Your plan needs to be specific to you. It's not a one size fits all model over here.
Oh, that. So it's more customized. It's very customized.
Absolutely. And what was interesting, unbeknownst to me at the time, that the NIH had the same vision as well, that they kind of were focusing on kind of that whole person health vision as well. So that it kind of worked out perfect for us.
Okay, so let's talk about, we talked about whole person health, devices, wearable devices. What are they used for? What does that mean? And how does that fit into your strategy with DocsInk?
That's a great question. So, and I think Kennedy had mentioned it earlier that I think I forget the time frame, but at some point everyone will be wearing a wearable to where you where everyone to track your biometrics somehow. So here's the unfortunate bad news about the state of our healthcare in the United States. The majority of us, greater than half, have more than one chronic condition that we are trying to manage. That's a problem. And today, I believe, and my statistics are going to be horrible, but adolescents, young children are more prone to diabetes than they've ever been in the past. So, and I can't remember the number, it might be 30 to 45% of the children under the age of 18 are either diabetic or have propensity to be diabetic in the future. So that's that can be a big weight on the healthcare system from a cost perspective, managing those patients and from a cost perspective. So the idea of wearing or having a wearable on you isn't a terrible thing. We absolutely love the idea. I mean, and everyone, I mean, if you have an iWatch or Apple Watch, that's a healthcare wearable. I wear a specific kind of watch to manage my heart rate when I work out. So a lot of people are already kind of doing these things. Those Oura rings are super popular right now because people are tracking their sleep. That can be a good and bad thing. Sometimes it's somebody was telling me a funny story about that some guy I was training with was telling me how he was kind of measuring between a night that he had a beer and a night that he didn't have a beer. And he's like, wow, you would just blow your mind how much one drink would affect your sleep. And I'm like, oh, wow. Yeah. So those things are very exciting to us. There's also wristbands that are being worn as well, so that can track biometrics on patients. And what's interesting and great about these things is that it tackles probably one of the biggest challenges that RPM faces, and that is patients being responsible and taking their measurements. So a wearable is like a passive device that is taking a measurement at all times. So I don't have to have a nurse call you to say, hey, Heidi, you need to, strap your blood pressure cuff on and take a measurement because it's been a couple of days. Some of those things are already done for you with some of these wearable devices. And what's really cool, super cool, and kind of crosses over into that AI space is the passive monitoring devices. We're kind of getting into that big brother space, so you kind of got to tread lightly with this stuff when you talk to people. But if you have a chronic condition and you are trying to manage it and you are challenged to put on a blood pressure cuff or step on a scale or what have you, these devices can do these things for you without you having to do those specific things. Like you can look into a camera and it can take your temperature or understand your blood oxygen levels. You can step on a mat and it can tell you, what your blood glucose is. There's all kinds of very exciting technologies that are out there today that we are definitely watching. As an RPM company, we probably get contacted by a half a dozen of these companies a week. Some of them are super cool. Some of them are not yet that cool and maybe have some future later if they just kind of vet it out a little bit more. But yeah, it's kind of neat to be in this space to hear these things as they're pitched to us, because I really think those passive monitoring devices are going to play a big role in managing chronic conditions in the future.
Yeah, wow. I'm glad we talked about that because it's very interesting. And I have two people. You just influenced me or encouraged me to go get my Apple Watch out of my drawer and charge it and put it back on, because I know two people, one in her early 20s and he was at the gym and went into AFib, and his phone let him know. And then it happened
Wow.
again days later in
Yeah.
his 20s. And yet, like, he was in the hospital and the doctor said it was just a fluke, but, stop drinking those energy drinks, which I tell my daughter now. I'm like, please stop drinking those drinks because you don't know what it's doing to your body. You're too young to be drinking these.
Yeah.
It's not healthy for you. So literally the doctor, that was a wake up call for him. Don't drink these energy drinks before you go to the gym. And then a friend of mine, her husband went into surgery because he went into AFib, and his watch notified him. And had the watch not notified him, they would have never known, and
Absolutely.
that can be tragic. So yeah, I'm glad we talked about that today. So everybody listening, go figure out what wearable you need and go monitor yourself.
Absolutely. If I can interject one other unfortunate story that happened in my family was around AFib as well. So my father um, had allergies, always had allergies throughout his life, but a few years ago they were a little bit more than typical. Ends up going to the doctor. He's having a hard time breathing, and my stepmom took him to the hospital, and he ends up there for 5, 6 days. But during that time, he gets sepsis. He ends up with AFib, is an AFib situation. And one of the two drugs, one of the side effects is a potential loss of sight. Well, he finally gets discharged from the hospital. A couple of months goes by, and he's starting to notice that his eyesight is getting worse. And it turns out he didn't have one, he had two ocular strokes, one in each eye. So now he is wearing these. He found this guy. Apparently, there's a gentleman in North Carolina that where I'm at has a clinic to where he's developed these very special glasses for people that have gone through this or have this condition or have this happen to them. I mean, they're wild. I mean, he looks like Mr. Magoo, right? There's the spec things, but he's able to see a little bit better. But man, this was a guy who they recently retired. They had to postpone their trip to Alaska because of COVID. They were super excited about going after all the restrictions went out. Boom, this happened. And you're
Oh,
like, he was
wow.
very fit. He's always worked out. My stepmom as well. And then all of a sudden, you just never know when these things are going to hit you.
Yeah. Yeah. So anything you can do to get ahead of it, it's
Yeah.
definitely a good
Yeah,
idea. Um,
absolutely.
so we're talking about technology. Let's not stop.
Yeah.
AI is, the talk of the town, and it's not going anywhere. It's only getting bigger. And just in the last year, 2 years, but even the last year to 6 months, we've seen evolution of it in great ways, big ways. So how is AI affecting your industry, your business, whether it's supporting it, or what do you see in the evolution of AI for your industry specifically?
So there's a number of places that AI is really getting it is creating a spot for advances. As time goes on, the language models are getting better, so that has helped. But initially, for us, where AI can be of benefit is relieving the stress of a FTE, a full-time employee that's at a clinic, from having to call out to a patient, one, to remind them to either take a medication, take their measurement, or help them with an issue with getting their device set up. AI can now do that. So it will call out, sounds like a person, and will talk to you just as if you were talking to me. I'm sure everyone listening has probably gotten a call when you're like, hold on, this sounds a little bit weird. It sounds pretty good, but it sounds a little bit weird. Yeah, that's probably AI calling you to solicit you. They use it for soliciting for sales and things like that. But it's also a great tool to reduce the stress on clinics that don't have the manpower to have to constantly call these patients to remind them to take their measurement or help them with issues with getting their device set up or something like that. So that's been a godsend. That's been amazing. The other areas where it's really there's some gray area around this now, is making recommendations. So your blood pressure gets high, your specific age, doing specific activities, and this incident happens, you know, they're starting to use AI to provide you 3 recommendations of what you should do next. Now, a lot of those have not yet. I mean, some of them have been tested against, or they come from trusted organizations, health organizations, like American Heart Associations, I think American Heart Association, things like that. But it's still new, and that will evolve and probably get better. You know, at the end of the day, it would always be nice to have a doctor have final say. And I think that's kind of where the stopping point is for that where here are 3 recommendations, especially if it's not critical, then that's one thing. But when you get to the critical state, then it's important that, your clinician is part of that decision-making processing as well. None of these 3 make sense. You should do this. We're always going to have to depend on our doctors. They're very important to us. What we're trying to do is reduce their caseload or workload and make things a little bit easier for them to make decisions, and maybe potentially make decisions faster to get to their patients sooner so we can better manage their care.
I'd like to talk a little bit about business growth now. You're not the only game in town for RPM and in the telemed space. So can you share with us you've been in this for a year, and you said it's been a little bit of a wild ride. So what are you doing? What is DocsInk doing to get in front, stay top of mind for the doctors and for these clinics that you support? Basically, like, what's been working for you, and maybe some things that you've done that haven't worked for you.
So for us, and to be completely transparent, a lot of the outbound work, we've had limited outbound work, but a lot of it has been based on relationships that I had in the past. So I've been fortunate enough to rely on some of those relationships, and that's really where connections are made, and sales and long-term partnerships are really made, because we're all getting bombarded by solicitation daily. So that's difficult. So having the ability and bringing in a team that also has relationships has really been beneficial to us to go out and forge new relationships and cultivate the ones we currently have. I mean, we could have easily looked at, because DocsInk was a running operational company, they were making money. But there wasn't a real secret sauce there. We just kind of went back and looked at the customers that we currently have, and looked at how, how we can improve the work that's been done there, and then look at potentially providing services to them, and then using the relationships that we had in the past for new sales opportunities. As I was mentioning, it's super difficult now. There's so much noise. I mean, I know as the president of this company, I get bombarded by all kinds of people trying to sell me stuff.
Yeah.
So if you're a CIO or a CEO at a large healthcare system or a clinic or a service line leader, you're getting the same, if not more, messages from other people. So it's really working relationships that you might already have, or try to maneuver around some relationships to create some real interest around the things that you're providing. That's where we've had focus. We've had success. The outbound, and maybe I need to spend some more time in learning more about improved outbound reach, but yeah, it's really been around making strategic relationships with people, with organizations, and then people in the market that can help us get to the places we need to be.
So what's next for you? It's been a year, and what are your big goals for the next 12 months?
So for us, it's been, we've had a large stack of technology that's done a lot of different things. And we're now looking to consolidate some of that, and then kind of fine tune the edges to make it better, because we need to compete, right? So AI, I mentioned the owner had allowed me the opportunity to bring in my vision. And that vision came kind of in 3 parts. One was AI. And where we really see AI as improving the workflow for clinicians. The second part was, and this came about because of a podcast I heard from a young lady named Casey Means, who's a physician at Stanford, and she was just going on and on this podcast about food as medicine. Well, that hit me right at the core. I'm an endurance athlete, I would always say food is fuel, but it also could be medicine. And so that's something that we're bringing in as an offering as prescriptive meal plans for patients. I shouldn't say never, but we're not going to get people completely off their prescriptive medications. But man, if we could maybe eliminate a couple of them or reduce the amount that they need by just using the food that's around us, gosh, that would be fantastic. Now, don't get me wrong. Is it red dye number 5? I'm a huge fan of Cheetos, and you can't pry a bag of Doritos out of my hand.
Oh, Doritos and me, I can put a bag down. I totally get that.
So I don't know what's going to happen when they get rid of that. The red dye number 5, I'm going to lose my mind, but it's probably better for all of us.
Yeah, I it was Labor Day weekend, I think, and I think we went through 2 or 3 bags of Doritos that weekend. They were
So
they were
good.
done. You can't buy bag of Doritos does not last long in this house. That's for sure.
There's a reason they're so good.
That red dye. So okay, you told us if I can give you a magic wand, Clay, and you can wave it over one challenge, one issue, and you can go poof, and it gets to be taken away. That could hold you back from your goals. What would that be and why?
You might not like this answer. I'm in a really good spot and I have
That's
really
awesome.
good ownership and I have great people around me. Where my team gets me is they're like holding me back. I want to go fast. I want to go smart, but I want to go fast. And there are some things that we're going to bring to the market. One of the 3 that I didn't mention earlier was there has to be an element of behavioral health in the story of the whole person thing. So, and where does that play? How does it play? And when I got here, I had no idea. I just knew that it had to be a part of it because this thing definitely affects the body, right? So since then we've been able to kind of put together a plan and incorporated technology around it to really get a hold of how we help patients from a emotional behavioral stance as it relates to their biophysical stance, right? So that's something that's super exciting to us. There'll be more information. I don't mean to be cryptic, but there'll be more information about that soon, probably in the latter part of this year. Yeah, they're giving me free reign. It's up to me. I'll be the thing they're going to want to disappear if
Well, if we could just bring you back in a year, Clay, revisit this conversation, what does success look like for you in DocsInk?
Oh my God. I could put numbers to it. We've done something that they've never done in the past, and that is really have a stronghold in some big medical facilities, academic facilities. As I mentioned earlier, strategic partnerships have been key to us. So we have an opportunity that we could be in close to 100 of these facilities. That's never happened here. And I mean, 100 is, I mean, there are people listening right now going, this guy's crazy. That'll never happen. But it absolutely could. And that's a goal for us. I mean, we have, and not only the big academic facilities, but we're also taking a strong look at palliative care, at federally funded clinics in states. We started here in North Carolina. The behavioral health space is another place that we're going to spend some time in. But most importantly, and as I mentioned it earlier, oncology. And that's some place that we really want to spend a lot of time in, and because there's leading up to cancer, there's cancer, and then there's survivorship. And I think we'll have a very good tool, if you will, to help patients through that journey, which I'm super excited about.
I love it. Can't wait to see what's next,
Yeah,
what happens over the next year. We'll have to bring you back for sure.
absolutely.
So Clay, can you let us know, share with everybody how they can connect with you and learn more about DocsInk?
Absolutely. So it's DocsInk.com, and you can reach me at my email. It's my first initial C, my last name Malloy, Malloy at DocsInk.com.
Beautiful. And we'll have all of Clay's information inside the show notes. So if you're driving and you're like wanting to write this all down, don't worry, we got you. Just go to the show notes and everything will be there along with Clay's bio, and all in every way that you can connect with him. So, and we'll have his social media links. Anything he shared, we'll give to you. If you're watching us on YouTube, thank you. We're glad to have you here. Leave a message down below for Clay. Let him know you heard him here. And there's a button there. It says a word that says subscribe. We'd love for you to click that, because what that does is allows us to ping you when we have more amazing guests like Clay on the show. If you know of anybody that would benefit from learning more about Clay or connecting with him or learning more about DocsInk, please share this episode. This is how we support each other in growing. Clay mentioned relationships matter, referrals matter. And by him coming on today, I would love to see you all share, give back and share this episode with others. If you're listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, we would love a review if you can, whether it's Amazon, Apple, wherever you can leave a review, that'd be fantastic. 5 stars preferably. That allows the platform to share us with more people, to get the message out that Clay shared along with our amazing guests that we have on the show. The goal is to grow more businesses, to see more business succeeding. And our guests are taking time out of their day to share what's worked for them, what hasn't worked, in supporting your growth as well, so we can all win together. I promised y'all a gift, so here it is. I think I promised you a gift at the beginning. If you are looking to grow your visibility and grow your business, and you've been trying different things and you just don't feel like it's working the way you want it to, go ahead and download our Spotlight to Scale blueprint. You can go to spotlighttoscale.com/blueprint and grab it. It's free. It's yours. Clay, before I let you go, is there anything that you'd like to share that I didn't get to ask you or we didn't touch on today?
Oh my gosh. I think if I was to fulfill the dream of my wife in the healthcare space, it would be something to do with pets and animals, dogs. So who knows? Maybe one day
we're working on it. Yeah, we're working on it. Well, her and I spoke, so we're gonna see how this can happen.
That's right. Your dog or cat could have a wearable on them.
Yeah, that's what's coming. That's what's coming. Yeah. So if any of you all want to have information on that, please share it with us. Clay will connect you with his wife. She's amazing. That's one thing that so as I shared with you, Clay and I talked before this. So we met about a week and a half ago or so, a week ago. And then I got to meet his lovely wife too via Zoom. So now I know both of them, and I'm honored to have them in my world. So yeah, we're all animal lovers here. They got a dog, Cooper. He's the love of the apple of our eye, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So that'll be exciting. We'll have to have her on, or both of you back on for the
be great.
Wearables for sure.
That'd be fun.
Oh, Clay, thank you for being on the podcast. Thank you all for listening today. Make sure you connect with Clay. Go to DocsInk.com, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Business Growth Spotlights.
Thank you.